Christmas Pile 1, and welcome to your own Christmas Carol story. Before we begin, just quick bullet point version of the story of Scrooge, this greedy old man who is visited by 4 ghosts on Christmas Eve. The first is his old associate, who was, in essence, very much similar to Scrooge. They were business partners. His partner was also greedy, and he died, and he's basically here to tell Scrooge, we're trying to save you from the fate that I'm currently going through, because I'm going through hell because I died a greedy old man, and so I am in my own personal hell. And so I'm trying to save you from this fate, so you're going to be visited by 3 ghosts besides myself tonight. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future. And each of these ghosts shows Scrooge why he needs to change his ways of being a greedy old man, because he's going to be remembered that way, basically. What I'm taking from that story in inspiring this reading is this idea of what we are currently, like the path we're currently going down, or what part of our path we are currently going down, we might come to regret if we don't change our ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be such high stakes as it is in the story, where the story always, the Ghost of Christmas Future always ends up showing him his grave and then it shows like his legacy after he dies. I don't know that I'm gonna take that there unless I feel called to, but it's not meant to be so severe as like that. I'm just trying to kind of hone in on what you kind of might want to be made aware of that might come to be a regret if you wouldn't have otherwise been made aware of it. Okay. All of that being said, if you're looking at the spread here, we have 2 cards on the left and the right. This is going to be the card on the left that's going to be answering the question of where you're at right now. And then the card on the right is what the whole point of this message is trying to either prevent or trying to teach you, like the purpose of all of this. It'll make sense once we get to it. The top row is going to be the ghosts themselves, so the past, the present, and the future, and then the tarot cards underneath each of these cards is going to be elaborating on that. And so with Painter, what I want to say about it, and I will return to it because there's a lot more to be said about it, but I need to elaborate on the rest of these cards. The thing that I'm getting with Painter is that on the one hand, painting, and here we're showing the painting of a room, but the way that I'm seeing it in my head, what immediately came to mind was like the painting of a house, both externally and internally, and how tedious of a process that is, because it's something that like there's multiple coatings that you have to do, and then it's like you have to put down the plastic so that the flooring and the furniture doesn't get messed up, and you have to like make sure that it's even like brush strokes, and there has to be like a drying process as well. And so there's not really shortcuts that can be taken. It's a really long and meticulous and tedious process. The other thing that I'm getting from this card is trying to put a coat over something else. And I will elaborate on that because there's a lot to be said about that. But okay. And the Queen reversed, again, we'll get to that. What's being brought up about the past? In essence, both of these cards are cards of abundance. Fish from Lenormand, that is the card of abundance, of a lot, having a lot. And the 9 of Pentacles is a card of wealth. In a lot of cases, the 9 of Pentacles is a generated wealth, one that, yes, it's always a wealth that you benefit from, but for most of the time, it comes up for me as a wealth that you've worked for. Not necessarily always the case, but because it's the way that it's landing here in the past, it's very few circumstances where you're making a lot of dough that you can rest comfortably on in your childhood. And if that's your circumstance, then hey, welcome to your reading. That's a perfect, double confirmation for you there. But then what I'm getting from this is it's either that your family had a lot of money, but what's true across the board, if that isn't true, that there was no money involved, if the abundance wasn't a financial abundance, then it is one of privilege. There is definitely a recognition here with the Nine of Pentacles and with the outcome being the Queen reversed. There is this understanding that in the past and up until the future, there's a privilege that you have benefited from and that you continue to benefit from today and currently. And so when we're thinking of the past and what this reading is trying to have you really kind of hone in on, to dwell on, is the abundance that for some of you, it's that you no longer have access to that abundance. And so it's like hone in on that because it's important for the work that you have to do here. And it really feels like not just for the work that you have to do here, but also just in general. It is important for you to remember the good times. Not just for nostalgia's sake, but because although the present is what matters at the end of the day, remembering one's roots, despite how we feel about them, plays a big part in a healthy relationship to the present, and a healthy relationship to the self, and really healthy relationships to others. But whatever. The point is, the reading is asking that you be honest with yourself about that privilege and understand how much it has played a role in the way that your life has really shaped out to be as it stands today. With fish and a Pentacles card, fish being it gives water energy, and then Pentacles is earth. I mean, for some of you, it really does feel like this was the privilege of having love in your life, whether it was you had a full love from the people around you and that you are very well loved, or even if it was just a handful of individuals or just one, to be genuinely loved in a way that okay, these are just the words that are coming through. It's the type of genuine love that you miss it when it's gone. It's the type of genuine love that when you're out in the world and now in the real world, you've come to realize how much of a rarity it is to be seen and loved in the way that you've had access to in the past. For some of you, you still have access to those things. For a lot of you, you don't. And that is what this Ghost of Christmas Past in the context of this reading is trying to bring up for you. It is important that you hone in on that. It is a detriment to you, and it's a detriment to you, and a disservice to you to try to forget about that. It is a slap in their face for you to try to forget that. Okay. With the present, in the story, the present shows Scrooge what his peers and his family really think about him. And there are people who try their best to be nice to him because they're just really good people. But and it's people who know him, like his employee and his nephew, people who have direct ties to him. They try their best to be as kind as they can. Even they're talking to their friends. Scrooge is not in the room with them. He's only witnessing this through the ghost's power of Christmas. But the people that he's witnessing don't know that Scrooge is witnessing them talk about him. And the nephew and the employee talk really nice about him because they're respectful and it's Christmas. But the people around him who hear the stories of Scrooge from this person that they care about, but they don't care about Scrooge, they drag Scrooge for filth. They're not polite. They have no trouble cutting him down because Scrooge hasn't earned any respect. And so I'm taking the present cards as things in your present that you don't know about. Yeah. Okay. So what we do know with the ghost being ring is the ghost of Christmas present is trying to hone in on the aspects of your life that you have been committed to for a long time. For some of you, this message is going to apply to multiple commitments. For some of you, it's only going to apply to one commitment. You are going to have to use your own discernment here. This is a public, free reading on the internet. There's only so much I can do. Okay. Where that commitment or these commitments are concerned, your expectations of it will not come in. At least not in the way that you expect them to, if at all. For a lot of you, it's feeling like it's not going to come in through at all. Okay. I admittedly have become embarrassingly wicked-pilled. If you just, if this is where you click off, I get it. Respect. If not, and if that piqued your interest, don't allow me to self-pedal. I did just put out a couple readings ago, Wicked-themed readings. There's 2 of them. Pop the Bubble and Good Deeds Yet Unpunished. I'm very proud of them. And I will be doing them again because they're so good. Anyways, sorry. The way this reading is kind of coming through is it really does remind me of the Glinda storyline, of this idea of, especially this present card with the things that you've been committed to for a long time, but it's not coming in the way that you thought it was. Couldn't be happier. And even with the privilege of the past, right, that we were talking about. What's the lyric? It isn't quite like I anticipated. It's a little bit complicated. There are bridges you cross you didn't you cross if you know, you know. It's basically the song that's she's putting on a front of like, yeah, everything's great. Like I have the man of my dreams and the job of my dreams. If you haven't watched it, I'm about to spoil it and I'm so sorry. But she doesn't have it actually. It's all a facade. The job of her dreams is only hers because the person that they were going to offer it to didn't take it, and the bosses were like, well, you're here, have it. And then the man of her dreams is actually in love with someone else and is only there to like play along to placate certain like figures, but isn't actually invested. And so there's this idea of, yeah, it's been something that you've been long committed to. It's something you've always wanted, but what you're not really recognizing is that it's not what you actually want. If you really were to look at it honestly, and especially if you were to, okay, I'm understanding now. I see it now. If you were to be honest with yourself with the way of the things of the past, of, we were talking about like the genuine love that you were receiving in the past, or whatever that was in the past that you had like a genuine privilege of, how that contrasts with what you have now and what you are claiming as yours and what you're committing yourself to. So it's like, if we're talking about love, it's like, okay, you had genuine love in the past. You have been loved in a very real way, and you are accepting far less than what you know is to be real because, well, we don't know why. This is just an example, but like, let's say the example is just like you're lonely. And so because you're lonely, you're accepting less than what you know you wanted in the past. You're accepting less than what you've been shown is possible because, well, in this specific example, you're lonely. And so that's what the present is kind of showing you, where it's like, when you look at it honestly, at what you have committed yourself to, and you've committed yourself to it because it's what you've wanted for so long. When you look at it honestly, it isn't what you wanted. And even if it meets the criteria 60%, that is not like, that's sure, it's over 50. That's technically meets the criteria of it. It mostly meets my expectations, but it doesn't like exceed them. And so it doesn't even meet your expectations. It just kind of meets them. And so there needs to be more of an acceptance of that, of like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I need to be more honest with myself about that. Okay. With the Ghost of Christmas Future, we have Birds and the Hanged Man. Okay. If you don't care about your reputation and what anybody thinks about you, hold off a second, because I have a message for pretty much everyone else. And I have to say, energetically, it feels like for those of you who claim to not care about what anybody thinks about you, okay, let me just deliver this message. If you don't change your ways, if you don't move away from this commitment, because this reading is coming through because this commitment that's only meeting some of your expectations is costing you a lot more than you realize. It's not only wasting your time and your resources, it's keeping you from, one, the things that you actually want, and two, the things that are better for you. Because you are accepting less than you deserve, if you're abide by faith in the universe, and it's like you're communicating to the universe that you are willing to accept less than you deserve, which, yikes. And worse than that, you're communicating to, like, if it's an individual, if it's a relationship, if it's whatever it is, whatever this thing is that you're committed to, you are communicating to that thing that you are willing to accept less than you deserve. And that's always a big yikes. And so, okay, what's being said here with birds and with Hanged Man, the first major that we have here, if you don't change this, if you don't address this and find somewhere else to kind of place your energy into, and for some of you, it's that you have to adjust the commitment. Like, it's not that you have to leave it altogether, it's just that you have to demand for yourself more, and you might come to find that you'll get that. Again, you'll know your own situation. The point is, if you don't change your ways, the consequences with birds here is going to be very, very public. This is something that is going to be very well talked about. This is something that birds, it's loud, and it's going to be the topic of the day, if not for a while, however big it's going to be. I feel weird delivering this message just because personally, I am part of that party of, like, I could give two fucks what anybody says about me. But, like, it really does come through of, like, it will be talked of as a failure on your part. Like, oh my God, like, did you see him or her, them fall flat on their face? It kind of gives that energy. So I don't know, I kind of have to deliver the message of, like, if that's the people that are kind of around you, like, you know, you'll know. But at the same time, like, people can't help but talk. Like, even about the people that I love the most, sure, it'll be like ethically gossiping, or it'll be like, I'll be as nice as possible. But if someone, you know, messes up big time, I'm going to be like, damn, they messed up big time. And so it's just kind of this idea of, like, yes, people will know about it and you will be judged severely for it. With Hanged Man, the first major here, this is going to be such a thing. It really is coming through as a failure. This commitment, if you don't change your ways, it will kind of end in a way where it will end. And it'll just be that much more of a thing to talk about. It'll be that much more of a thing to deal with because you haven't had, you at that point would have invested that much more time into it, much more of your resources than you would have if you were to just cut it off now. And so, like, with the Hanged Man here, it's like it's a big deal. Like, in the future, this ending, this failure is a big deal. It's something that impacts your life. It's something that you carry on for the rest of your life. It becomes a really big deal. And so it's kind of like this thing of deal with it now before it gets any worse. And that feels kind of a cliche, but it's like I have to rely on it because that's the way that it's coming through here. Where on the one hand, it's not only an explosion, but with birds, it's a loud explosion. And with Hanged Man, the major, it's going to be an impactful explosion. Explosion is so violent, but, like, you get what I'm saying. With Hanged Man, I do have to say, because Hanged Man in and of itself is, yes, it's a detriment, it's a sacrifice, it's something bad that is technically happening, but ultimately it's for the greater good. One of the mythologies associated with the Hanged Man is that of Odin, and there's a lot of mythologies attached to it that kind of follow the same process. But Odin hanged himself from the world tree for 3 days to gain the gift of future sight because he was about to go to war. And so, yes, he sacrificed 3 days of his life. Big whoop. Okay, let me not disrespect. 3 days, God-wise. I'm sure that was like a different time flow. Whatever. And actually, if I'm remembering correctly, some mythologies say more than 3 days. The point is, there's this sacrifice, okay? And the sacrifice therefore gains something bigger. I guess that's kind of the point of the story, like where if it's a sacrifice of 3 days, it's like, oh, this sacrifice is nothing compared to what I'm going to gain from it, which in Odin's case was future sight. There we go. Okay, wow, cool, great, got it. The point is that it's an explosion and that it's a big deal and that it impacts you, but the fact that it's coming through as the Hanged Man and not reverse, it's coming up upwards. Yes, it'll impact you, and yes, it'll be something to deal with, and yes, it'll be something that'll be registered as a failure and or a loss. You're going to be all the better for it at the end. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, then that means I can continue with this commitment and I'll be fine no matter what. I mean, yeah, I'm not here to tell you not to do that. Like, you know better, you know your situation better than I do. And this is just like, you'll know if the best thing for you to do right now is like, if you've been on the fence and it's like, I don't know, like maybe it will get better. This kind of reading is coming through to be like, well, it might, but it'll definitely end. So if your hope is that it'll be forever, then this is kind of a message that it's like, well, no, it won't be. But again, you know your situation where it's like, well, I don't need it to be forever. I don't know. I don't know what the specifics of your situation are. But to end, we have the Queen reversed. And so the whole point of all of this coming through, and especially because we started with such privilege and this idea of like wealth in the past, the whole point is to remove you from your privilege in a way. It's not to take your privilege away from you. It's just to get you to see past the blinders that privilege put over all of us that have privilege. And so it's just, that's kind of the purpose of this, where you're being tasked, you're being put through all of this so that you can really see that, like, okay, kind of the way that it's coming through is, let's say this is obviously a metaphor. You're building this really big monument, let's call it a castle. And it's taken you a long time and a lot of money and a lot of like labor, and you're building this castle and it's like, oh my God, like it's taken so long, but and it's this for the sake of the metaphor, it's a huge castle. So it's like taken you decades, let's say, just like it did in the olden days. Let's say this is in the olden days when it took decades to build the castle. And you're like, in 10 years time, it'll be done. And that, you're like, in 10 years time, yeah, it'll be done. And okay, it's like 5 years past, and you're like, okay, in 5 years time, it'll be done. You have invested so much into this. It'll be so sweet when we finally get there. And like on the last year of construction, someone comes and lets you know, hey, like the land that you built your castle on is kind of messed up. You have to take it down, because if not, in like 10 years time, it's all going to topple down. And so you now have this decision to make where, okay, if I want for this to be my legacy that I leave for generations, and this is something that I can benefit on for longer than 10 years, I have to take my loss here and I have to move it somewhere else. Or you could be like, no, I've invested this much into it. I'm going to take my chances. I'm going to finish construction and I'm staying right here, baby. And the wise thing, obviously, is to heed the counsel of this person. Mind you, for the context of this example, this is someone who knows what they're talking about. Like, for sure, this place is going to topple in 10 years. And so you're kind of left with this choice of, I can heed the wisdom. I can listen to what I'm being shown and take my losses now, or I can abide by my ego and not want to admit defeat now, and I'll just ride this out for as long as I can because it feels good, or whatever the case is. Because I do feel like for some of you, it's not that severe where it's like, I'm just, whatever the case might be, it's like I am willing to stick it out. Like it might, I don't know. But for those of you, and especially like this specific example of like, be a little more careful with that. It's coming through specifically if it's a relationship that you're hoping is going to get better. The thing is, we don't know how far in the future that's going to be. this could be that, like, sure, in a year it implodes and then, you go through a breakup phase and then you're over it. But what if you, like, you forget about this reading, you forget all about what's going on right now that might be feeling like an issue, and then things do get good, and then 5 years go by, and then 7 years go by, and then y'all get committed and you guys are actually together, and then 10 years go by, and then it actually implodes then. And then now you have a home together with this person, you have kids, you have this whole life built together, and both of your families and your family, both of your friends know each other, you're enmeshed in each other's lives. And now the divorce, the coming apart of your breakup basically is now like something that sends like ripples throughout your not just your lives, but like those of yours around you. And again, this is kind of where Birds comes in, where it's like it's going to be something that's very well known and talked about. And so the phrasing that's coming through with the Queen reversed is loss of kingdom. There's something about like you need it. There's something that your privilege makes you blind to, and there's a lot to be gained from you learning how to look at life from a different perspective than through that privilege. And this, what you're going through with this commitment that isn't going the way that you want it to, is kind of being put in your path so that you see that it isn't just because you want it. It isn't just because like you wanting it and you doing everything right doesn't equal you're going to get what you want. There are so many things outside of your control and that's kind of what you're being shown here, where it's like you're being shown the truth that this isn't what you think that it is. So you're being guided to like move away from it, accept the losses now, because it's going to be a greater loss in the future, a much more impactful loss in the future if you continue to let this kind of pan out the way it needs, the way that it's going. With Painter, to kind of circle back to it, it especially feels like you're trying to put a coat over that truth, where it's like, okay, yeah, sure, it's only meeting 60-70% of my needs, but like, look at that 70%. It's so good. It's so golden. Meanwhile, there's like maybe other things, like, again, you've been shown in the past that like 100% is possible. Your expectations can be exceeded, or whatever the case might be. Like, you've been shown that more is possible, and yet you are accepting less. And that is the whole point, is that privilege that you have is tied to why you can't fully grasp that you're accepting less than you deserve. And that connection is, you're being asked to make that connection so that you can avoid a bigger, more impactful loss down the line. Yeah. My friend, I hope that this reading had something for you. Godspeed on your journey, and I hope to catch you in another reading. Bye. Hello, Pile 2, and welcome to your own personal Christmas Carol story. Before we begin, if you're not familiar with the story, it is a story that follows a greedy old man who is visited on Christmas Eve by 4 ghosts. The first is of his old business partner, who has come to tell him that if he doesn't change his greedy ways, he will end up in a hell of his own making. And the following ghosts, which are the ghosts of Christmas past, of Christmas present, and of Christmases yet to pass, each show Scrooge something that he needs to see within that time frame, that he needs to see in order for him to understand why it's important that he changes his ways. Highly recommend, if you haven't already, to intake some sort of media. Like, it is a big read, more power to you if you do want to read the story. But there's like a bunch of movies. There's a bunch of incredible audios here on YouTube. Like, I recently found, like, in preparation for this reading, I found a radio show from the UK, which is really good, and then a Patrick Stewart performance of it. Phenomenal. And it's also like just an audio. It's just him reading all the parts. It's really good. Anyways, that being said, let's get into your reading, and yet another little bit of introduction before we get into the actual cards. Huge trigger warning with this one, not because we're gonna be talking about sensitive things that might trigger you in terms of trauma. It's just that this one does, point blank, let's just put it out on the table, it is calling you dishonest. Not a liar, And it's not shaming you for the dishonesty, but it is pointing out a dishonesty. And if that immediately made you uncomfortable, if that's just not your vibe, that's not what you wanted to hear, that's not what you wanted to talk about on Christmas or whenever it is that you're watching this, I get that. I'm just letting you know from the get-go that this is going to be an uncomfortable reading, but it is a really, really beautiful one, a really, really good one, if I do say so myself. That being said, what is being said here, we have if you're looking at the spread, we have 2 cards from one deck on the left and the right of the spread. And then we have 3 cards from Lenormand up top, and then 3 tarot cards underneath the Lenormand cards. The cards on the left and the right are here to answer the questions of how you are in your life, how you are currently creating, and then the card on the right is the hell that you're creating. So kind of like how in the story, Marley, the partner, comes back to tell Scrooge that the hell that he's experiencing is one of his own making through his greed. And that's why he's here, to tell Scrooge to change his ways, because if he doesn't, he's going to end up like Marley. And so kind of what I intended with these 2 cards is, with the card on the right, it's like that's what you're going to create for yourself if you don't change your ways. And then the card on the left is what you're doing now, that it is that you need to change in order to, create a better future for yourself. The Lenormand cards up top represent the ghosts. So the card on the left, the Ghost of Christmas Past. Not necessarily Christmas Past. This is a timeless reading. I'm taking the inspiration from A Christmas Carol, but you can watch it whenever. But it's the past, and then the middle card, the present, and then, of course, the last card, the future. And then the tarot cards underneath each of these cards is going to elaborate on what that ghost is showing you about that time frame that's relevant to what we're talking about. Okay, that all being said, let us finally get into your reading. With the card on the left, we have the Enchanter reversed. The Enchanter upwards is a card of manifestation, of being able to create for yourself just off of your talent, just off of your own merit. This is having the resources necessary to, or rather utilizing your resources in order to create what it is that you want. Reversed, then, it takes on a more malefic meaning, where you are still utilizing your resources and you're still using your resources to get what you want. But the reversal indicates that the universe, your guides, whatever it is that you believe in, is acknowledging the way that you're utilizing your resources as malefic. It feels, within the context of this reading, like a bit of manipulation, not to the point that you're forcing people to do some things they don't want to do. It's manipulation of their perception of you. I'll elaborate as we get into the cards, because there's a lot more that needs to be said before I can really dig into what we're seeing with the Enchanter reversed. But with the Ghost of the Past, I've noticed this is now the second pile, so this is the first time I'm doing this reading, so I just noticed a bit of a pattern. With the past, it's really demonstrating why, in the first place, this problem was created that we're now trying to address. And what's being said by these 2 cards, which are Clover and the Knight of Pentacles reversed. Clover is a card of a temporary nature. It's also of luck, and luck itself is temporary. It's not something that is consistent. The Knight of Pentacles reversed feels not the opposite of slow movement, because the reversals can sometimes mean the opposite of what the upwards card means. The reversal here indicates to me that it was just slow, no progression. Where you tried to make moves, it was either very, very slow, it wasn't really worth the effort that you put in, or it just flat out did not pan out. And so that's why it's coming through as with Clover, where it's like what luck you had in the past was very, very little, or where you tried to try your luck, where you tried to, and maybe like more than just try your luck, where you actually put effort to, get something that you wanted, reach for some type of goal, it didn't pan out for you. It simply just did not happen for you. Or if it did, it's something that happened very, very slow, or in a way that you acknowledge wasn't worth the struggle, wasn't worth what you put into it. Okay, why is that important to what we're seeing here? Because since this is the past and it's meant to point out and highlight the formative part of your life, what in your past happened that impacted you and your psyche in such a way that you are now dealing with what it is that you're dealing with in the present. And so what I'm seeing is the metaphor that I'm seeing is a farmer who is a farmer because his family has always been farmers, and so he inherited this farm, and his family taught him how to farm, but when it came time for him to do it, he just has no green thumb. No matter how many seeds he puts down and no matter how many how-tos, and he does everything right because he was taught how to do this by actual farmers. So he knows how to do it right. It's just that it doesn't happen for him. And at first he might have been like, okay, maybe it's a problem with like my soil, or this land, but like the lands around him are fully lush and like the farmers around him are like not having any problems. So like he does all these things to figure out what it is. And no matter what he does, it just doesn't happen for him. Okay, cool. He decides to do something else. Time passes. And for whatever reason, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, someone's like, oh, here, come and start this garden with me because I need help starting this garden. And now, all of a sudden, you're like, I don't want to, because if I remember correctly, anytime that I put anything in the ground, it never fucking grew. And so there's this like trauma response where it's like, well, anytime that I've tried to like invest myself in anything, it blows up in my face. The last time that I cared this much about something, it went so bad, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's this idea of, because it was so shitty in the past, because nothing went my way in the past, because my luck was so little, because, this kind of what I was already saying, where it's like, if it did happen, it was slow, if it happened at all. Where the things that you reached for, the things that you wanted, et cetera, et cetera. You get the picture. And so, okay, that's one thing that this reading and your guides are basically asking that you hone in on that and that you spend more time sitting in what it is that caused. Okay, we know what caused it, right? But it's like, I think, okay, if we're picking up on childhood, and we kind of should be because it's the past. But I know that for some of you, it's going to go beyond just your childhood. It could be something that happened in your adulthood that really did impact you. The point is, even if it wasn't something that happened in your childhood, the point is, when it happened, you did not know what you know now. And yes, that thing happening to you impacted you in such a way that it changed you. Yes, part of that change is the experience gained through all of that. And that's kind of what's being said here, where we need to start making the connections or rather, it's not making connections. It's learning how to view that in a different way. Learning how to, and doing so that you can reach a place where you no longer resent yourself and or your past for what it was. Because the resentment is valid. I totally can understand it. If this is the truth that's being picked up for you, it's like, we can totally understand why you don't want to try anything new or why you struggle to care too much about anything, whatever the case might be. The point is, in order for us to really participate in life the way that life asks that we participate in it, it does require a lot of courage. And I've come to find as a tarot reader that the work that we have to do on ourselves, that we all have to do on ourselves, and everybody's work is unique to the individual, it always, no matter what the destination is of that work, no matter what the outcome is of that work, part of it always includes courage. And so that's why this is being brought up for you of the past. It's not so that you can remember just how shitty it all was. It's so you can understand that it's like, okay, that was true and it sucked, but that was then and this is now. And why I was talking about it being in your childhood, if it was a childhood thing, there's a lot to be said about the fact that you have no power when you're a child. You hardly have any rights as a child. Every single decision is left to your parents and or guardians, and you're basically left at their mercy. And if you have even the most phenomenal parents are going to mess up because they're human. And that's not me criticizing parents. Like, I get it. We all, as I understand it, most parents do the best they can. Obviously not all parents. But it's just, I'm not trying to make any criticisms or anything like that. It's just, you have to give grace to the fact that if it did happen when you were a child, yes, that sucks. That you didn't have the idyllic childhood that you might know other people had, or that you fantasize you might have had otherwise. But the point of the matter, the fact of the matter is that is in the past. And even if it is something that lingers in your present, and if it does linger in your present, this reading is going to pick up on why. The point of the matter is that is something you have to acknowledge as done, as something that's in your past, and you need to learn. This what I'm about to say is true for all of us. We all need to learn how to get more comfortable with engaging with what we're unfamiliar with, because only through what we're unfamiliar with will we gain what we don't know. That's literally logically, that's just common sense, but not really. In order for you to know things you don't know, you have to experience things you don't know. It sounds almost so dumb to say out loud because it's so obvious, but despite the fact that it's so obvious, all of us struggle to go and experience new things because we all like familiarity. Whatever. Anyways, let's move on with the reading. That's why that's what's coming up in terms of the past, because it is important that you sit with that and get comfortable with that and do the work that you need to there, because it's important for what we're talking about here today. Okay, in the present, we have Moon and Ace of Swords reversed. Moon is, okay, think of it. The Moon in Lenormand is not at all like the Moon in Tarot, if you know anything about that. The Moon in Lenormand is actually the romanticization of life. In essence, it's romance. Think of the moon itself and our social relationship to it, where the moon is so romanticized, and it's this, in our age, it's this symbol of love. So much romance is attached to the moon. More modernly, definitely with the return to witchiness, there's now definitely that added layer of the occult to the moon, which lovely, of course. But despite that, outside of the occult, if we ask people about the moon, it's just this idea of romanticizing it. Even just the simple fact that looking up to the moon is one of the ways that humans choose to romanticize their own lives. And so that's what the moon in Lenormand is. So yes, it could be for a lot of you, this is talking about romance itself, the way that you engage in romance, etc., etc. But not necessarily. That's not going to be true for all of you. For some of you, it's just the way. Okay, there's life and what is expected from us in life. So that's responsibilities and our work, and even the tending to relationships. Anything that is expectation and responsibility. Yes, there's those aspects of life, and then there's the rest of it. There's what we like to call the small things. And so that's what the moon is. There's the humdrum parts of life, the things that we need to do. And then the moon is the romantic parts of life, the things that make it worth living. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we're picking up on, where it doesn't necessarily have to be romance itself. It can also be picking up on just the ways that you choose to romanticize your life. And with the Ace of Swords reversed here, it's saying that you don't. If we are talking about romance, and here's where we're talking, the Ace of Swords at the middle of this spread, and with the Enchanter reversed, it's talking about you not acknowledging a truth, or if you have acknowledged that truth internally, it's not something that you express. Now, if we're talking about romance, this is going to be either, yes, we are talking about orientation, or it could be being attracted to a type of individual that your family, culture, maybe even yourself internally rejects for whatever reason. And so that you repress oppress this feeling within yourself of romance for this individual because you deem it as something bad or just whatever the case might be in your eyes. I'm not here to shame you, and I'm not the police. I don't know who you are, so stop panicking. No one's gonna, come in and like arrest you for this. Like, it's okay. Maybe in certain countries, if we're talking about orientation, perhaps, but I'm not the police and I'm not gonna tell anyone. So chill. The point is, if we're talking about romance, that is what we're talking about with the Ace of Swords reversed. If it isn't that we're talking about romance, then the truth still applies. There's a truth that you're not acknowledging. And since the rest of the spread, spoiler alert, is one of fulfillment and lack of fulfillment, actually, then the Ace of Swords reversed here is talking about a truth that without acknowledging it, you will not gain fulfillment in your life. And I spoiled the ending for you here. But in essence, if we're not talking about romance, this feels to me like a passion unfulfilled, a passion unpursued, a goal unpursued. Whatever it is, there's something that you know that you want. Even if you don't know what it want, it could just be that you're feeling like bored with your life, or like there could be more, there should be more. But because of this fear of the past that we've been talking about, you won't go out and do it. You won't expose yourself to the risk of trying something new because you fear falling flat on your face. I mean, that's true for all of us, but specifically with you, like we were talking about, it's the fear of it not happening for you. Or like in the past, if it was the case, moving really, really slow, or not being worth the effort. Sorry for touching the microphone there. The point is, there's something that you are not acknowledging within yourself that is now demanding that you acknowledge it. Because if you don't, like I said, there will not be fulfillment. Why do I say that? The future is being shown as the sun, which, holy moly, we have in Lenormand the moon and the sun here. Beautiful. If we're talking about romance here, I mean, come on, and I will talk about that in a second. But the future being depicted as the sun and the Hierophant reversed. What I love about this message is, especially with the sun itself is letting you know, no matter what you decide, even if you decide to leave this truth unexpressed within you, never known to the world, you're gonna be okay. You are the type of individual, like we were saying with the enchanter, you have resources, you know how to utilize them to get what it is that you want. So you're going to be fine. No matter what it is that you decide to do, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. But that's it. You're just going to be fine. You're just going to be okay. You will not know a life fulfilled because you are not choosing to fulfill the things that it is that you want. You're choosing not to pursue the things that you know inside you want to pursue. And because this is the future that you're being shown, we're seeing this entire life of you never taking a risk, of you never, maybe you did in the past and that's why you don't do it now. But even so, if we're talking about if you live a full life of 80, maybe even 100 years old, then if you did it in your childhood, by the end of your life, it's like, no, you really didn't, because you only tried it once or twice in your childhood and you spent this whole life never doing it again. And so it's basically a life never experienced because you never went out and risked anything to experience it. And for a lot of you, that's going to that's okay with you. And I'm going to leave that there. If that's okay with you, honestly, I don't know that there's anything else in this reading for you. I wish you a Merry Christmas and Godspeed on all of your endeavors. But the thing is, what's being said here, we have the first major in the future as a reversal. And Lenormand cards, I just don't read reversed. I've tried to in the past. I gain absolutely nothing from it. And so Lenormand is a system of cards that I choose never to read reversals in. But I'm not afraid of a reversal. I love a reversal. And so the other cards in this spread are able to be reversed because they're tarot. And then the other deck that I chose to use here, I also take reversals from. And so every card that can be reversed is reversed. And then the fact that the way that this whole reading is formed, it means that the future is always going to be a negative one, because literally the point of this reading is to show you the negative future that you're creating for yourself. And so that is where the first major came out, and that it is a reversed major. It really lets me know there will be no fulfillment. It will be just you being just okay, just fine, and never knowing what it is to be like fulfilled, to be, I mean, if it's about romance, to be fully known, to have those experiences. And the thing is, that might seem okay. Like if there's a lot of fear and trauma involved with why you simply cannot take those risks and move in that way, I get why a life lived, like if you're breathing, then that's okay. That's enough for you. I get that. I respect that. Cool. But the point is, what's being said here, and especially with that last card, the Catalyst reversed, but I got to that in a second. It's the Hierophant reversed with the Sun. It's this idea of, it might seem okay right now, but things will start to change when you start to look around you. And that's where I was getting that metaphor of like, your endeavors aren't panning out, but your neighbors and the land around you, you're witnessing it happening around you. But because you won't allow yourself to have it, you never will. And so if we're talking about romance and not pursuing the thing that you want to romantically, you're going to look upon you as you live your life throughout the rest of your life. You'll look around and see people who are happy doing what it is that you denied yourself. And it'll just show you that you could have done that, but you chose not to out of fear. And if you think that will not impact your outlook on life, if you know the Christmas Carol story, then if you think that's not going to make you a Scrooge, old and bitter because you're witnessing other people be happy and you refuse to let yourself be happy, and so you cannot be, so you, of course you're going to be angry at people around you who are happy, showing you that what you said was impossible was in fact possible. So yeah, all of these messages coming through, like the future, yes, the fact, what I just said of like, you'll notice the people around you have what it is that you denied yourself. And that's, again, true across the board, not just if it's a romantic thing. Like if we're talking about like the fulfillment of life, romanticizing your life, pursuing a passion, a goal, etc. The time's going to pass anyway. Like if you're thinking about like, oh, it's going to take too long to do this thing, or maybe I'm too old, whatever the case is, it's like you're going to witness just how wrong you were. And again, if you think that's not going to give you a kick to the chin, think again. Like that hurts. That sucks to recognize, like, I was afraid for nothing. Like, okay. With the Catalyst reversed, the first thing that came to mind when I flipped this card over was when I first learned about the word catalyst. And like any term in any language, a word can be used within different contexts, and that context will kind of change the definition of that word. And I say that because the first time that I heard this word and the first time that I learned about it was in a high school biology class. And we were learning about enzymes and how there's certain like chemical reactions. Yes, this was in biology, not in chemistry. I remember vividly. And this was like 15 years ago. Jesus. He was explaining that a catalyst is the ingredient used, or the thing that is going to start the process. And I say I remember vividly, but I don't remember exactly what the process was. I know it involved potatoes and dye. I think it was dye. I don't remember at this point. But the point is, when you introduced the catalyst to the experiment, then the experiment got going. And so there's this idea of this beginning that it needs to get started. There's something that you need to do. There's something that you need to introduce into the experiment that is your life in order to get this catalyst going, in order to get this beginning going. Not catalyst going, because you doing the thing is the catalyst, but in order to get that thing, the experiment going, the experience going, there's something that you need to do. And so the contrast that's being put to that, to kind of like help explain it, is sometimes a beginning is something that we stumble upon. Sometimes a beginning is something that we don't have to put any effort towards because it just happens for us. So like, stumbling on an interest or like a really good band. That's just something that you stumble into. You didn't like actively have to go and look for it. Sometimes we, like, if we're going to follow that metaphor of music, stumbling on a cool band. Sometimes we do like get bored of the music that we have and we'll go and explore. But I'm talking about a beginning that we stumble into. And then others that we have to put no effort into. It's kind of like aging. It's like we have to put no effort into that. And so like we're just going to enter later stages of our life as we age because that's just something that happens naturally. Here specifically, what's being said is that if you do not answer this call that's being pointed out by the Ace of Swords reversed, this thing that you're repressing, this thing that you're choosing not to express, if you never allow yourself that, there are things that will never start for you. There are things, what it feels like is like you're this seed. It's not even that you yourself are the seed. It's that there's this seed within you. And you're not, like a seed, it's a tiny thing, so you're not like super aware of it. There's no cognizant awareness of that seed within you. But the thing is that it's there. And because you are, the things that you are, there's the seed that exists within you, and the things that seed requires in order for it to germinate and grow and do its thing, the things that it needs are the exact things that you are denying yourself. And because you are denying yourself these things that this seed needs, you are never going to know the fruit and the abundance and the wealth that seed has in store for you. And if you are of the belief that our souls have a purpose on this planet, my friend, what is being said here is that soul purpose, that fulfillment will never be known, will never be had, not just by you. You're not only denying yourself this truth and fulfillment, you're denying the world it because you choose to deny to pursue it. And so that's what's being said here by the catalyst. It's not just the lack of fulfillment that your future's kind of like looking like you're just going to be okay, you're just going to be fine. There's something that you're denying yourself, something really, really good. There's a wealth. There's not just the fulfillment, but like, I don't know what this wealth is, but it's this idea of the seed. And it's really like the imagery in my head, like the way that it's coming through, it's like so vivid. This idea that it's like, it can grow into something that like is fulfilling down to your soul. And so kind of like, let me point out, I'm not of the belief that a romantic partner should be our life purpose, or that a relationship should be. I really don't believe that. And so that's not what I'm seeing here. It's more so that like through that partnership, or through a partnership that you would allow yourself, and if we're not talking about romance, like that thing that you would pursue, it's not necessarily that the achievement of that thing you would pursue or that partner, it's not that is the fulfillment. It's that you experiencing that is what enables the growth of that seed. And then from that will sprout something, like it's something you don't even know. It would be different for all of you. But it's like that thing that you're denying yourself romantically, if it's like that type of individual or an individual, or like if it's a goal or passion unpursued, that thing in and of itself, that's not the thing that you're not denying yourself. Like, yes, it is. But it's like, that's not the only thing you're missing out on. That's what I meant to say. That's not the only thing that you're missing out on. You not pursuing that thing, that's not the only thing you're losing. You're losing also the growth of that seed that lies within you. And that's what's being pointed out by this reading. You can't possibly know what it is that you're missing out on, but deep down your soul does. Your soul will recognize as you age that it is laying within your rotting body unfulfilled. And that's not going to feel good, buddy. So this is what I meant. I told you from the beginning, this was an uncomfortable reading and a huge lashing, but such is a Christmas Carol story. That's the point, is that it's meant to kind of shake you, look you in the eyes and be like, hey, do something before you can't. In the UK radio show that I was telling you about, there's this wonderful line, and I haven't gotten to that point. I don't think I have with the Patrick Stewart one, and if I did, I missed it. But there's this wonderful line where, I don't remember exactly how it says, but that's the ghost tells Scrooge. That is I'm not saying it word for word here, but in essence, they witnessed something and Scrooge is like, oh, I wish I could say something. I wish I could say something to change. Like, this is horrible. I wish I could say something. And the ghost responds by saying, that's the hell of like the unliving, is that you want so badly to help, do something good, to impact good, to help, and you can't. And like, it's this idea of like, oh, that's this huge regret. And I'm not talking about like, this reading was not meant to talk about like the afterlife or the regrets that our souls are going to take on after this one. And yet the reading went there anyway. And so it's just like, I don't know, man, this one feels deep. This one feels really down in the roots. And honestly, truly, if you've made it this far, hugs. Hugs and warmth, because damn. But also, it, Godspeed. Truly. I always close out my readings with that, and I always mean it. I truly do wish all of you Godspeed. But damn, dude. If no, it's because of what this reading is picking up on. I was going to say, if what I said about that seed is true, no, it's true for all of you. There is something within you that has the potential to be huge, and you refuse to water it. And if you continue to choose to, if that's what you continue to choose to do, Godspeed with that. If you choose to change, Godspeed with that. Regardless, thank you so much for being here. I really hope that this reading had something for you, and I also hope to catch you at another reading. Merry Christmas. Bye. Merry Christmas, Pile 3, and welcome to your own Christmas Carol story. Before we begin, a quick bullet point version of the story. It follows Scrooge, a very greedy, very frugal old man, and he is visited on Christmas Eve by 4 ghosts. The first is his old business partner, who lived very much like Scrooge did, and because he lived in a greedy way, he is in a hell of his own making. And so this old partner ghost comes to warn Scrooge to change his ways, and in order to convince him to do so, there's going to be 3 other ghosts that visit him. And it's going to be the ghosts of Christmas past, the Christmas present, and Christmas is yet to pass. And each one shows Scrooge something that he needs to see within that time frame in order to understand why it's important that he changes. And so the purpose of this reading isn't so much because the story itself takes on this idea of the legacy after death. And I'm not trying to tap on that, because that's just not, it's Christmas. I'm not trying to get into all of that. Maybe next year. I don't know. The point is, this is more so just like the future that you face within this life that you're building for yourself if you don't change something now. And so, okay. That being said, there are, if you haven't heard it or watched it or read it, do so. It's a phenomenal story. There are a ton of movies to watch. The story is a big read, but it is a good one. And then there's also, I recently discovered, preparing for this reading, audio versions here on YouTube, but I'm sure in other places. And I'm not just talking about like audiobooks. There is a radio show from the UK that I found, which is remarkable, and one by Patrick Stewart. And his voice is just so incredible, so crisp. So it's a great listen. All of that being said, to talk a little bit about the spread, we have a card on the left and a card on the right. The card on the right is the hell that you're creating for yourself in your future, and the card on the left is what you're doing in your present and have been doing in order to create that hell. And then the top cards are Lenormand, and they work with the tarot cards underneath them, where the ones on the left, the Lenormand and tarot cards, are talking of the past. The middle ones are the present, and of course the ones on the right, the future. To get into your specific reading, we have the Pilgrim, and on the other side we have the Thief reversed. I'll talk more about them in a second. Lenormand, or actually the past, is the Heart with the 2 of Cups reversed. The present is Stars with the Page of Wands, and then the future is going to be Sun with the King of Wands reversed. Okay. Honestly, this is the first time I'm doing this reading, and so this is the 3rd pile. This is only the 4th time I've done this reading, because I've done it for myself. Actually, no, I haven't done this one for myself, because I decided to wait until Christmas Eve to do it for myself, to keep it in theme. And I'm posting this on Christmas Eve, but I'm recording these before. Anyways, the point is, this is only my 3rd time doing it, and the first 2 piles, spoiler alert, and it doesn't matter if you're causing them or not, I'm just pointing out that in the past, whenever the first 2 piles, when we talked about the past, it went as far as childhood. With this one, that doesn't necessarily have to be true. It could have happened in your childhood, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true. Because what we are talking about here, especially in the past, this isn't a love or romance reading, but the past is picking up on past romances. Specifically, past romantic disappointments. The romantic disappointments that you keep to this day. And it's not that you haven't gotten over it. It's likely that you haven't. But even if you have gotten over it, it's something that you recognize as something that did leave you with a deep... It impacted you deeply. I was going to say it left you with a deep scar, but that sounds violent. And maybe that's true. Not in a literal sense. I hope not, but maybe so. The point is, with Heart and the Two of Cups reversed, elaborating on what you... Okay, because the way that the spread itself is kind of laid out and the way that I'm kind of understanding it works is that the past is showing you why what's happening now is happening in the context of this reading, and why you're making the decisions that you're making that are creating the hell that we're trying to avoid with this reading. And so you're being asked to spend more time, as difficult and as uncomfortable as it might be, spend more time contemplating and processing those disappointments if it wasn't a singular huge disappointment. The point is there has very likely been a lot of repression and or oppression of the memories and anything that might come from it. And by you not engaging with that, you are denying yourself, freeing yourself from it, because that's the ultimate goal and that's the ultimate result of processing and sitting with something. It's becoming familiar with it. The more you sit with it, the more time you spend with it, the more familiar you become with it, the less impact it has over you. And because you've been running away from it, you haven't allowed yourself to get familiar enough with those uncomfortable things to get used to them, truly. And that really is the name of the game. That's why this is being brought up in the past, within the context of this reading. What is the hell that you're creating for yourself is one that is being created because of the trauma that you endured with that past romantic disappointment, and if not disappointments. And trauma might be too heavy of a term for some of you. It definitely is that, where it is a legitimate trauma. This person fucked you up. And for others, it's not that maybe it wasn't that they messed you up bad, but it wasn't a good experience. Or even if it was a good experience, the fact that it ended, the fact that it just wasn't what you thought it was going to be, might have been such a disappointment that you are now kind of dealing, it feels like unknowingly, unconsciously dealing with the repercussions of that, of the way that you're moving because of how you were impacted by that romantic disappointment in the past. And I'll elaborate more. I'm going to talk more about... I'm going to bounce all over the place. But to get into the present, we have Stars and the Page of Wands. And the thing about both of these cards is that they have this energy of something that is not stable, something that is not entirely formed. And I'm not saying that it's not stable because it is unstable or it's like erratic or something. Not necessarily. It's just that both of these cards really have this energy of something that is not fully built yet. Stars... I mean, we have, like in tarot, Lenormand has the stars, moon, and sun. And I mean, yeah, in tarot it's star. But the energy is still the same. I'm seeing, what I'm kind of picking up on is how star is the dimmest of the three lights that I'm talking about. And then it would be the moon, because when it's full, it even shines, it illuminates us down here. And then the sun, obviously, is the sun, so it's the brightest. And so, like, that's that idea of this light that it technically, starlight counts as a light, but it doesn't really light anything. We can't see anything through just starlight. I guess I'm trying to think when I've gone like out into the woods late at night. Like, no, it's pretty. Like, I can't see just the star. I can see the stars in the sky, but I can't see in front of me. Yeah, that's for sure a thing. Sorry, I had to take a second. And the Page of Wands, I mean, all the court cards are progression. So it's like Page is the first one, and then we have the Knight and then the Monarchs. And so both of these cards are really depicting this energy of nothing really forming. And because it's your present, it's you. It's what you're doing. You're not allowing anything to be formed. Okay, so for a big chunk of you, what is being said here is that because of that the past romantic disappointment, you no longer allow any romance to form big enough, strong enough for it to hurt you. You do not leave yourself vulnerable to that, and you just kind of keep on moving to the next thing. Nothing solidifies, nothing forms because you do not allow it to. You do not give enough of yourself to any type of relationship in order for it to build into something stable. And even if you have, even if you do, you know deep down that you're not as invested in it as the other person is because of the facade that you might be putting on, if that's the case. The point is that in the present, you're really moving as someone who doesn't really want to be tied down, who again, doesn't want to form anything concrete. That's fine. That's okay. I do want to point out, like, if you're young, and I'm talking 25 and under, honestly, let's even put it out to like 30 and under. Honestly, even like mid-30s under, you can get away. Like, the closer you are to like teenage and 20s, the more you're going to get away with moving this way. It's like, yeah, you're young. You should be moving like a page. You should be kind of like seeing what's out there for yourself and, gauging your options. Again, putting yourself out there to see what's out there. That's a good thing. What's being pointed out here, and especially because in the future, spoiler alert, we have the King of Wands, not the page anymore, the King reversed, which indicates like a maturity level that is never reached. And so it's like, that's my point, is that like you can get away with it when you're young. There's a lot, and even like if you're older, if you've won, maybe you were never allowed, or you never gave yourself the permission to like pursue things that way in a page like we're describing. If that's the case, then okay, we can definitely see why it would be appropriate for this individual to act that way in their older years. And then even so, some people are just promiscuous. I'm not trying to like sex shame anybody here. There's also people who come out of relationships and are putting themselves back out there. I'm not saying that for you to move in this way is immature and wrong if you're of a certain age. I'm just saying that what's being said here, and it's not me saying it, it's the card saying it, is that it does denote a lack of maturity to move in this way. It denotes a cowardice, and that cowardice is immature. Too mature is to recognize that there is always going to be a risk of something, and you maintaining to move that way, you maintaining that fear and continuing to move in that way where you never allow anything to grow big enough to become important in your life, that is what's immature. It's not that like moving in that way is immature. It's continuing to move in that way when you know that there's more than that. And you know that there's more than that because of the romantic things in the past. So it's like, I'm talking specifically to those of you who are like very young, and as someone in their early 30s, very young to me is someone 25 and younger, and that's why I started there. If you really are like younger, then honestly, like don't sweat it too much that you're moving this way. But what this reading is saying for you specifically is that you should be paying attention to how a romantic disappointment in the past is impacting the way that you move, and that you don't want to stay in this energy for too long. Now, for those of you who are older and have had more experience, that's what's being pointed out, is that like it's okay for you to move in this way if that's what's necessary or if that's who you truly are. It's because you know that there's more for you and that you're afraid to pursue it because of that hurt. That's the problem that's being pointed out here. It's not if it's promiscuous, if that's what you're doing, or if you're just putting yourself out there more, or if you're just the type to date and never let anything form, even beyond that, if you're just the type to never put yourself out there because you're afraid of anything, it's like, that's the problem. That you're doing it. Oh, sorry, that's not the problem. That you're doing it by itself, like that in itself isn't the problem. It's a problem because you're doing that as a way of running away from the risk of putting yourself out there in a legitimate way to something real in a way that would make you vulnerable. Again, the way that you were when you got hurt before. Okay. That being established, the future that you're creating for yourself is with the Sun and the King of Wands reversed. Sun here is letting me know, okay, how do I word this? Okay, I guess before I get into the Sun and the King of Wands reversed, I do want to talk a little bit about the cards on the left and the right. Because we have the Pilgrim upwards and it answers the question of, well, I want to talk, okay. Oh my God, I'm all over the place. I'm so sorry. The card on the right, the Thief reversed, is answering the question of the hell that you're creating for yourself in the future by the actions you're doing now, right? And so the card on the left is what you're doing, what you have been doing, that's creating that hell. The Pilgrim then is this idea of you continuing to move into the unknown. I mean, a pilgrim is someone who is traveling to somewhere with a purpose. There's a purpose for what they're doing. And so, okay, the Pilgrim card shows a lantern, fire energy. The Page of Wands, fire energy. Both of a lantern is a fire that is held, like you wield a lantern to wield light, so to speak, and a Page of Wands holds that wand. He wields that fire. And so both of these cards denote this idea, this energy of the fire that you wield. The Pilgrim then being this idea of what you do with that flame, the intentions that you have with that flame, that's what's being pointed out here as a problem. Because again, that card on the left, the Pilgrim, this lantern energy, it's answering the question of what you're doing right now that's creating the hell for you in the future. And so it's the way that you're using your fire, the places that you're putting that fire, that's the problem. And it's honestly, no, let me word that differently. It's not the places that you're choosing to place that fire that's the problem. It's that you're okay. It's you're the problem. It's not the places that you're putting that fire, that's the problem. It's you that's the problem. It's that you're putting it into places that you know there are better places for your fire, and you refuse to put it there because you refuse to make yourself vulnerable. Again, like I've been saying. And so with the Pilgrim as a problem, it kind of gives the idea of what comes to mind is how if you're familiar with US history, the Pilgrims from the UK came to the Americas, and the rest is literally history. And that all went south. I mean, depends on who. I mean, the victors tell the story, so the way that the US tells the story is one of greatness and liberty and all of that bullshit. And then the actual history, and the indigenous people would certainly say something different. The point is, what also came to mind with pilgrims, beyond this idea of the way that you're wielding your fire and the intention that you have with it, is also a lack of self-control. Because that's what the problem was with the pilgrims, is that they didn't employ self-control and, greed, the name of the game for the US and America. Anyways, this is probably going to get me flagged. No matter. The point is, with the pilgrim, this idea of, it's basically saying you could be wielding this, you could have better intentions with yourself and this inner fire that you wield. And so with the sun here following stars, the way that I'm kind of registering these two is that, because stars is night energy and the sun is the daytime energy, day is always going to follow night. That's always going to happen, no matter what. So long as the earth continues as it does, it is going to be that day follows night, and so on and so forth. And so with the sun here as the future following the stars of the present, sure, yeah, that's always going to be true. The future is always going to follow the present, sure. But the way that it's coming through here is that this is going to be the natural conclusion to the way that you're moving. Because sun follows night, stars, and then the sun. Okay, so, and then the way that tarot is elaborating on it, it's also a progression because it's from the page to the king, and they're both within the wands suit. The king is reversed though. And so it's basically pointing out what's being said here by all of these four cards as I've talked about them, is should you continue to move in this immature way, you are never going to gain maturity. Now, yes, you're going to age. We all do. But basically what's being said here is with the... Because a king is someone who, at the end of the day, a good king is one who serves. A good king is one who thinks of those around him, the people under his purview and responsibility, before he thinks of himself. Because the kingdom is not about himself, it's about the kingdom. I mean, it's a kingdom. So a good king is one that recognizes responsibility and one that, abides by his people, etc., etc. I'm not really picking up on all of that energy for you. For me, what I'm kind of seeing here specifically is just, it's going to be very noticeable. It's something that people are going to know about you, that you never matured, that you stayed stunted, you stayed within your comfort zone, and therefore you never gained anything beyond that. Now, it's not to say that this is what people are going to say about you and that's what you should change. No, it's more so because that's one of the messages that's coming through, is that it's going to be, that's going to be one of the ways in which you're described as very immature, because all you do is chase tail. All you do is, or if that's not what you do, all you do is stay in your home, in your room. You never open yourself up to anyone. Whatever the case is, that's one of the things that's coming through with this card. But the King of Wands upwards is this energy that, yes, they recognize their responsibility, but they remember when they were able to move freely, and it's something that they miss. This is like that stereotypical trope in film and stories, whatever media it is in, of the older gentleman, it's usually a gentleman, who's remembering the quote-unquote golden days. That's the King of Wands upwards. This is someone who, yes, understands their responsibility and they're here doing their thing, but man, do they miss the good old days when they could just do whatever the hell they wanted. And so the reversal, it's this person who has responsibility, who does have somewhere that they should be and that they need to be, but who isn't. This is, sure, someone who can be labeled as not dependable. I can't think of the other word. It's on the tip of my tongue. Unreliable. There you go. And just someone who can't... It's not that you don't show up, it's that you can't show up. There are things for which you can't show up, and that's just part of the thing for you. It's kind of giving this energy of, you have this friend group that you met while partying and you do all of these fun things together, and that's what the friend group knows you as. They know you as the fun person who's always, if you want to have a good time and it's going to be light and chill, sure, invite them. But if it's going to be a quiet night in, or if we're going to be talking about something serious, I'm not saying that this is exactly what's happening, but just to give you the idea of the depth that I'm kind of seeing here, it kind of goes as far as if someone were to have a wedding, you're not really the friend that someone would think to invite to their wedding, because that's just not who you are. It's oh yeah, they like to party, but I wouldn't want them at my serious events. It's that you're recognized as someone who just, yeah, they're cool, they're fun, but they're not really someone I want around during this serious event. I don't really, the words that are kind of coming through is I don't really take them that seriously. And so, okay, in some cases it might be like that, but if we're talking romance, it's there is going to come a time, and I'm sure you've already experienced it, where you are attracted to someone to the point where you could maybe even think about changing. And the thing is, because of the way that you move, and because it's so cemented into your being, and especially at this point in the future, it's something that will be so recognizable that it is going to turn off the right person, because the right person will want something serious, and it'll be so cemented into your being that that's not what you want, that you just won't know how to pursue it or take that seriously. And so they won't take you seriously either. Yeah. Okay, so to finish off with, if you're still here, because damn, this has been rough. The Thief reversed, and the keyword is selfishness. One of the messages that's coming through, yes, it was that selfishness is part of where I was getting that, yeah, you're not dependable. You kind of just, they're not really someone that I want around in this serious moment of my life. that is one message that I'm getting from the Thief reverse. But another thing that I'm getting, and you'll know if this is true, because it's, for some of you, part of what's being said by these cards, the Pilgrim and the Page, and then the Thief reversed, it's not just that you move like this in like romance. It could also be that you move very quickly in your ambitions, if not in business, in your career. The point is, if that's true, then the natural progression for you, because that's who you are, the natural thing that's going to happen is that you are going to find success. And for a lot of you, that is going to mean wealth. Not necessarily material wealth, but the point is there's going to be something that you have a lot to share of. Your time, yourself, maybe it is going to be actual wealth. The point is, with Thief reversed, part of the message for some of you, if you know that that's true, that that's somewhere that you're headed and that's something that you know you will have access to, it's not that you have some, if it's not that it's something you have access to already. The Thief reverse is basically saying you will come to recognize that you have everything, but you have no one to share it with. And that might sound corny and lame right now, but the way that it's coming through is that that is something you will come to regret. Because it doesn't hold the weight now, again, I almost hesitated to bring it up, but it's there in the card, so I have to bring it up. I guess maybe just so you can't say that nobody warned you. Whew. I was gonna like kind of say, what's the hope here? I was kind of looking at these cards and I'm kind of seeing like, okay, what's the good thing? What's the hope? Honestly, hun, there isn't one. And I'm remembering that the Christmas Carol doesn't really have hope within the ghosts have no message of hope for Scrooge. The hope comes when Scrooge wakes up and he himself makes the changes necessary to create a better future for himself. And so I have no comfort for you. This is where we're ending the reading. I am so sorry. I do know that I have messages, readings on my channel that are of comfort, and I advise you to seek those and other readings of comfort out, because damn, this was rough. But that was the point of this reading, is to point out to you what it is, the hell that you're creating for yourself by the actions that you are doing today. My friend, I really hope that this reading had something for you, and I wish you Godspeed on all of your endeavors. Merry Christmas.